It is a new week, and it is a beautiful start to the week. Welcome to News 10 Plus. I'm Taylor Gattoni with Rochelle LeGrand.
Hello, Taylor. I love the CTV desk. I love joining you here. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I know this is the one time I feel like we're always chaotic all over the place. This is the one time where we're like, hey, how was your day?
Right?
How are
exactly.
you?
Usually when I catch it, it's like, so
I'll see you later.
Well, I'm feeling good. We're starting this Monday off really, really well here on Studio 10.
All right.
Yeah.
I heard it's talking quite a bit, actually, when I was walking the halls. I was like, they're busy.
I was going to say, there's less of us today, actually, than there normally are.
Well, you're chattery.
As per usual. But we have a lot to talk about today.
Good.
Starting with Wharton Center. So you may have already heard the big announcement, but they just released their new lineup for next year's season. And when I tell you everybody is coming to town, they all are. So
That's
Hamilton
exciting.
is coming back, Book of Mormon, MJ the Musical, Chicago, Les Mis, all these different shows. Yes.
My mom has been on my case about going to see it. Watch my wording there. Going to see because she's like, you got to see it. I saw it. Like, it's incredible. My brother, he's actually seen Hamilton, and he's not the kind of guy to watch that stuff at all.
Yeah. Listen, Hamilton will bring out the best in all of you.
And he was like, wow, like, I recommend this. I was like, okay.
Highly recommend. Well, it's going to be my first time seeing. Well, let's hope I can get tickets for this.
There we go. Book your tickets fast.
Yes. So exactly. So the subscriber tickets are open today, but we are talking to the people behind the curtain. We always say at Wharton Center. We're talking about why they specifically chose these musicals and what to expect this next year's season. When I tell you, I'm already booked and ready to go. Excited. So we're going to talk a little bit about that.
The show, yep.
That's literally what I did. I said this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this
I
one,
love
that
that.
one. All of it. So we're excited for that. Plus, we are talking to the women who are a part of the 100 Women Plus Who Care of Greater Lansing. And they're talking about all the different community service projects and the way that you can also join them as well. So for Women's History Month, we'll be talking with them. And it's not Tuesday, but we got a kitty joining us today.
Little baby.
Little baby. You and Nicole talk the same way, like that. We're having Kitty join us today from the Constellation Cat Cafe.
Oh my goodness.
So if you've heard about the Chunky Cat competition.
Well, I was in studio when I heard you guys asking the question. I was like, I want to see this chunky cat.
Yes.
Any chunky cats. I want to see a picture.
Well, if you join us today at 3 p.m., you will get a chance to see the chunkiest of chunky cats.
Now, when we say chunky, I know we have to wait to see how chunky this cat is, but like, how chunky?
Taylor, that's a good question. We'll find out at 3.
All right, we'll find out.
Well, we're going to talk about their competition as well and how you can be a part of that and how they're raising funds for a new space as well in Old Town. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
really exciting to see.
Yeah, a fun way to get that going.
Yeah.
All right, we will see
Exactly.
what.
And just in case you miss anything, that is A-OK. You can head to our YouTube, our Instagram, everything at WILX Studio 10, and we'll tell you more.
Sounds good. Thank you, Rochelle. Excited
Thank
for
you.
this. The chunky cat and the other things. Talking about also, yes, like Rochelle was talking about, it is Women's History Month, celebrating that during the month of March and even beyond that, of course. But yeah, if you want to see anything going on Studio 10 coming up at 3 o'clock today, or if you can't watch it, you want to, rewatch something if you missed it, well, you can go to @WILX Studio 10 on their social media pages. Or you can shoot them an email at studio10@WILX.com if you're a business, or if you just want to shout out on their show. But we were talking about the beautiful start to March. So we have Justin Bradford here to share the record high warmth that we're getting.
Yeah, really nice day today. We've already at lunchtime, and really even before noon, got to 65. That broke Lansing's record, which goes back 130 years to 1894. So it's another week where we've got a record. Last Tuesday, we got into the 70s for the first time, and now on this Monday, we're doing kind of the same thing. And a similar setup where we're going to have some rain and storms swing through tonight. But they're not going to be severe like they were last week. They're going to occur closer to the morning sunrise. And then tomorrow, the numbers will be cooling off a bit throughout the day, but not as sharply as last week either. Of course, that was a big shift. One of the largest we've ever seen in this state or this area. And so it'll still be a little bit cooler after today for the rest of the week, but numbers are still near 50 degrees. And that's not bad when our normal high is 39. And so we'll take what we can here in early March.
Yeah, no, I actually stuck my arm outside real quick. Right before coming on here, because I was like, how warm is it? I know it's supposed to be 70 today.
Right.
It's a little breezy, just a little bit.
It's a little breezy, and there are some clouds that have thickened up in some spots out there, unfortunately.
Probably getting ready for the rain.
Yeah, not seeing quite as much of the sunshine, but the good news is that we are seeing some of the pockets of sun come back out. A few of the sky cams have been showing that out today, and we'll continue to warm up. Some places actually took a step backwards with temperature in the last hour. But others that did take a step back the hour before are already warming back up quickly. And so the sun makes a huge difference today, and we're seeing it in full effect. Right now, the number has actually gone backwards in Lansing. We were at 66 last hour. Now we're at 64. So we're now back below what the old record was, but we already topped it earlier in the day, and we'll go back above it before the day's done, too.
Yeah, well, we'll be warm regardless today, but
Yeah.
yes, let's take a look outside so you can see what Justin's talking about.
Yeah, and that's kind of the big thing to keep in mind, right? The average is still 39, so with temperatures at 64, that puts us 25 degrees above normal, and so we're ahead of pace today. South wind has helped us to do that, 15 miles an hour, and the humidity is up, dew points in the mid-50s. Now, that's still comfortable, but noticeably higher humidity, and that'll continue to creep up as the system approaches, which will be here by the time we get to tomorrow and all of that. So that's what we're kind of tracking here in your first alert forecast. It was a beautiful weekend. We had mid-50s on Saturday, and yesterday these temperatures, they weren't records, but they were very impressive. Look at the numbers, 63 in Lansing and Jackson and 65 in Charlotte. This was yesterday's high temp where we topped out
It
at.
felt great yesterday, too.
It did, and now you look at the numbers out there now, and again, we've got 64 in Lansing. That is a step back, but Lansing's now one of the cold spots. In fact, along with Hastings and Charlotte, they're the only ones that aren't at 65. Everybody else is warmer than that out there, and so that's what we've got this afternoon. Now, Jackson spent a lot of the morning in the 50s and eventually ended up warming up. Jackson's now jumped to 68. We're just shy of 70 in Ann Arbor and Adrian, and as I mentioned, with the sun poking back out through some of those clouds, I do expect that we'll still have that run at 70 degrees before the day is done this afternoon. So depending on where you are, it's 70 or 71. Again, south wind's helping us do that. Don't know what's going on with Mason's direction there. The wind is not coming out of the north. It's coming out of the south there, and so maybe we got a problem with the arrow. But again, you can see 60s all the way up to Alpena. It's 50 in Marquette. That's warm for them this time of year. Green Bay, Chicago, everybody's got the warmth. It's 75 in St. Louis and Indianapolis, and that's the air that's being pulled right in. And so expect this afternoon, maybe not quite as warm as St. Louis and Indy, but hey, that number in Buffalo, that might be attainable for us today, but you notice that it's much colder with that system off to the west. Minneapolis down into the 30s, even colder north and west in there. Now the good news, as I mentioned, is we don't cool down in a really drastic way tomorrow, and so that'll keep us in the 40s for most of the afternoon after a morning high in the 50s. But I do think between those hours right there, 4 and 5, if not maybe sooner, we'll probably touch 70 degrees before we go back the other direction, and that'll likely end up our high today. Make it the second time this year we've reached 70, which if you told me even after this mild winter we would have hit 70 twice by March the 4th, I would have told you were full of it. But here we are, and so that's kind of been the tail of the tape lately. Now satellite and radar with a quick look at that shows how those clouds have drifted in, but there are a few breaks in those clouds heading into this afternoon. And on the wider view, you can see that system off to the north and west. Now that is the frontal boundary that is going to sweep through, but that specific area of rain, as you can see, it's going north and west, or north and east of our area. It's off in that direction to our north and west, but it's traveling up towards the upper peninsula, and it might scrape the northern lower peninsula into this evening, but it's going to be a continued develop. You see how it just rain keeps kind of popping up there in central Iowa and continuing to move north and east, and and not going away from there. It's been raining over Iowa all day, and so it'll continue to be the case as that kind of momentum shifts south through the front, and as it moves in here, it'll bring us those opportunities for rainfall. So the hour by hour is going to show that here. Again, very quiet heading into this afternoon. I do think numbers will recover before they go the other way this evening. Here's as we get to about 5 in the morning, you see numbers are still hovering in the upper 50s to near 60 degrees. And then we get out into the early morning hours tomorrow. We might have a couple embedded thunderstorms within the rain here to start the day tomorrow. So you may wake up 5, 6 in the morning to some rumbles of thunder. We are not expecting severe weather like we did last week.
Anything
so we have that going.
to be cautious of out on the roadways? Of course, you want to make sure you're looking where you're going.
Well,
any puddles on the road?
That's a good question. I think tomorrow you'll want to be a little mindful of the fact we'll have some wet pavement. And as we've been discussing this morning, there are some area closures. I think you did too, but I know when I was driving into work this morning, coming from over towards Delta Township and into the South Lansing area, I was on I-96 for that, and
you were in traffic like I was.
Yeah, they've got those. Yes, exactly. And that's right. And so those lane closures going down to one lane really slow you down in the morning, and so especially in that area past Lansing Road as you're continuing to travel eastbound, kind of towards the Cedar Street exit and MLK, and over towards 127 and 96, south side of Lansing. Just want to be mindful of that. Areas like Diamonddale, Holt. If you travel that direction, it's a good thing to just keep up to date. So I didn't know I'd be giving you a first alert traffic update too while we were at it. But
because a lot of people, you start, you're driving, you think the traffic is smooth, all of a sudden you're looking up ahead and you're like, why is there a long line of cars backed up?
Right.
You start slamming on your brakes. If you start doing that, especially when there's slick road conditions from the rain on the pavement, you don't want to cause any accidents on top of that. You want to make sure you're safe.
And with traffic in general, weather aside, you have just kind of the caterpillar effect, right? It's that you slow down and then suddenly people are slowing down way back and you don't know why they're slowing down. The same thing happens when there's an accident, like people at the front hit their brakes and it kind of has a ripple effect that lasts. And so suddenly you're sitting there and you're like, I don't see anything a ways up, and then you get going. So anyways, it is something to be mindful of for tomorrow morning because we'll have those showers and storms moving in. So the roads will be wet tomorrow early. The hour by hour as we run through here, again, non-severe thunderstorms, and it's mostly just showers for us, but you may hear a few rumbles as you wake up. We get to about lunchtime, numbers have fallen into the 40s, keeping a few spotty sprinkles around. In the afternoon, we might try to bounce back up to the upper 40s, as you see there briefly again, to near 50 degrees, but generally speaking, the high will occur around the time the sun comes up and when those showers sweep through. Still, though, it's above normal for the time of year. Average high again is 39, and so we're above that tomorrow afternoon. As we head out into Tuesday night, we clear out. That allows us to drop to around the freezing mark to start Wednesday, and I think by the afternoon, we'll call Wednesday mostly sunny with some high clouds. We'll get back close to 50 degrees, which is still good for the time of year. Not quite as warm as today, certainly, but it's still not bad. Not much to complain about here. And so we'll look at the 10-day forecast, and once again, I still think we get into those at least around the 70-degree mark this afternoon. Clouds might try to snuff out 71 from us, but I think 70 is still certainly within reach. At that point, you're picking hair, splitting hairs there. So it's either way, you're doing pretty well. 55 tomorrow in the morning, and then we'll drop throughout the day. The few rain showers pass through, and I think tomorrow late, might even see the sun poke out before it goes down, and then Wednesday's dry, Thursday's dry, still in the 50s. Friday, late in the day, the rain settles in. So I think the first half to 3/4 of Friday is also dry, and we're back into those 50s. But the numbers do cool down for the weekend. 45 Saturday, 41 on Sunday, which, once again, is still at or just above average for the time of year. I think by the time we hit the weekend, 41-ish, 42 will be the average. So Sunday might be at or just a degree shy of normal, but still, we're going to bounce right back. Just like we spring forward with the clocks on Sunday, which will jump 1 hour, we also spring forward with our temperatures next week back into the 60s for the second half of it as we head into mid-March. And so, once again, the weekend might not be quite as great as this past weekend was, but, it's still nice to have temperatures stay above normal. We've had plenty of that lately, again, as we've been mentioning a lot, coming off the warmest winter on record, the warmest February on record. Just a continued trend, and the long-range outlook doesn't do us any favors if you're looking for the colder, near-normal weather. It's keeping us above average for the foreseeable future this month and in the long term, too. And so we just are getting so far now removed, as we've talked about a lot this winter. The further you get into February and now March and further into March, the less likely that when a cold snap comes through, it's actually really cold. It tends to be a little cool instead of cold, if that makes sense. And so the opportunities for snowfall somewhat dwindling, although we might see a few flakes Sunday morning. They're not going to stick, though, and that's kind of the key. You see that little 20% on there right above the clock. If we do have any of that activity from Saturday, probably most of it's gone by the time we get to Sunday, but if anything does linger, a little bit of extra water vapor sticks around, we might see some drizzle and maybe a few snowflakes mix in, and maybe even some standalone flakes by themselves if it's in the 20s in the morning to start Sunday, which it looks like it will be. So, but of course, it's March, and we know we get snow flurries sometimes into May around here. It doesn't seem like a year where that might happen the way that we're going, but I mean, you never know. Mother Nature's interesting, and we know it best firsthand on the First Alert Weather Team. We get to try to forecast and predict and foresee this. But I do want to add that good old Farmer's Almanac, because I got a comment to me over the weekend about, we'll just trust the Farmer's Almanac. The Farmer's Almanac, by the way, this year,
be cautious.
Farmer's Almanac this year said that it was going to be, and not to, just dump all over it, but it said that it was going to be a very cold and very snowy winter. If you look at the Farmer's Almanac.
Quite the opposite over here.
I don't know. Would you consider, no, probably not, a cold and snowy winter?
Warm, dry, stick season. Where's the snow?
Now go back to November and compare that to, not to pat ourselves on the back too much, but the First Alert Weather Team's winter outlook, which was for the El Nino to take over and to be a warm and above average, fairly snow-free winter. Now, we didn't think it would be quite this warm, record-setting warm, But and that's how it panned out. So, I mean, this year, score 1 for the First Alert Weather Team, 0 for the Farmer's Almanac. Now, however that pans out year to year, you can figure that out. But I just want to let that be known. So,
well, let me say this. The Farmer's Almanac, you maybe get 1 check-in. That's all you're getting.
Yeah, that's
Our
true.
meteorologists, you're going to get constant updates in multiple different forms, many different resources.
That is true. And the First Alert Weather App's the best place to do that. Now, the icons you see on the screen there, we have not seen a lot of this winter at all. But you know, it is March, and we certainly could still see something like that come back. In fact, that right there, that could be, at least those first few, that could be how the morning starts on Sunday, even though it'll warm back up into the 40s. And so you want to be aware of what's going on, and even with like tomorrow's rain, as you mentioned, a good question earlier about with the roadways and everything, dealing with some showers tomorrow morning for that morning commute. You want to be prepared, and the First Alert Weather App helps you do that. If you had that this morning and you were peeking at it, you maybe knew, well, I can wear something where I can remove the layer in the afternoon when I'm going home and it's really nice outside. And so it's a good way to help plan your day, and it's absolutely free in the App Store and on Google Play. It's always been that way. I'm pretty sure it will always be that way. I hope it will always be that way. You never know how the world works. You know, everything seems to cost money now, but it is free, and so download it, and you get all that information right in your disposal.
I mean, obviously, I'm with you guys during the week, so I hear all week long, all day long. Oh, there goes
my microphone.
There goes the microphone.
I'll be right back. Going down the stairs. There we go. Back up at the top here.
But I was looking, and I was
nice.
like 70, and you know, I'm still waking up in the morning, so I was like, wait,
Yeah,
70, and I was like, oh, you're right. They've been talking about that, so I was like, I'm gonna wear my dress I haven't worn in a while, get the short sleeves.
I know it's nice to enjoy, and I'm hoping when I go out to the weather patio during Studio 10, I can don the old News 10 weather polo. Love to be able to throw it on, especially in March, and I got to wear it last week on Tuesday in February, which is really great. And so it's good to be able to don that when the weather's nice.
Yeah.
And so hopefully we can continue to see some non-disruptive weather. Again, storms by tomorrow morning, not severe. But one last look here, just a couple showers tomorrow, and then again late Friday into Saturday. Yes, it's a cooler weekend, but we do spring forward. I know that a lot of people don't like losing the hour of sleep on Sunday, and it does mean that the sun will rise an hour later in relative time. But you know what? The sunset is an hour later too. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we go from a sunrise instead of like 6:59 a.m. on Saturday to 7:57 a.m. on Sunday, so about an hour later. Of course, your little wiggle room there because the days are getting longer. And then the sunset goes from just before 6:40 to just before 7:40 heading into Sunday night. So 7:30, your sun will still be up next Sunday. We haven't had that in a while, and it will stay that way until we fall back on November 3rd. So we got a good long stretch here of several months where we get to enjoy the later daylight hours. And so if you're someone like me who likes the evening light a little bit more than the morning light, you'll be happy when we spring forward.
Well, even with limited snowfall that we've seen, the above average warmer temperatures, I feel like a lot of people still felt like they felt cabin fever. So
yeah, of course.
Getting outside, you have the longer daylight hours. It's going to be warmer, like you were mentioning, or at least more spring-like temperatures. Get outside, go enjoy.
Yeah, it's good to do. You know, I think what's going to be the hardest for a lot of people is something that won't happen for many, many months from now, and that's if we do go back to a normal winter. That's going to feel brutal next year. We've had it so easy this winter, to be honest. I mean, the people who don't, the people who don't like snow, don't like cold, this is as good as you've ever gotten it, to be honest. I mean, so you don't necessarily want to say get used to this, because next year could always bring the other way around, the other end of the spectrum. Right. But only time will tell. We're only focused on right now, and the now, well, it looks pretty good for most of us.
All right. Well, I'm liking it. Thank you, Justin.
Of course, yeah.
And one more time, I'll show the 10-day forecast before we get started here. A lot of things happening, like daylight saving, so just pay attention to that. And coming up on First at 4, at some point, we will be talking about Sleep Awareness Week in relation to daylight saving.
Yeah.
But we will see you at Studio 10 coming up 3 o'clock.
Yep.
And then for First at 4 today, instead of talking about daylight saving, we got something else. Of course, March is Women's History Month, so we are celebrating women everywhere. And bringing in Jessica Rollins. You actually may remember her from Sylvan Learning Center. She was here for Make an Impact with Sleep in Heavenly Peace. And so she's coming in today to talk about getting women and girls involved in STEM careers, getting them into that industry. And what they need to know about it, and just talking to a friend also on their own experience being able to teach this information, getting more women and, of course, girls involved. Then coming up, News 10 at 5 p.m. today, the Supreme Court of the United States has officially ruled that Donald Trump can remain on the ballot in Colorado. So we are hearing from Trump and others following that ruling. And as Justin Bradford said, it has been a mild winter for us here in mid-Michigan. So we take a look at how that weather will have an impact on allergy season. I know a lot of questions regarding allergy season, even the crops, how those will be affected come more of the springtime. So we'll have more on that coming up, News 10 at 6, or News 10 at 5:30, excuse me. And then coming up, News 10 at 6, Michigan State University leadership is in the middle of a shakeup with the school's new president starting today, Kevin Guskowitz, and some changes with the Board of Trustees. So our very own News 10's Tanaya Jordan will have reaction from Michigan State University's campus. That is what we have coming up today during our 90 minutes of news. I do want to share what our reporters are working on, starting with Deanna Giles and then moving on to Aaron Bowling. So we are going to start with Deanna coming up, News 10 at 5:30. Deanna.
Hi, Taylor. With just an average of $3.45 a gallon, Michigan has now reached its 2024 highest record for gas prices. I'm Deanna Giles, and coming up on News 10 at 5:30, I'll be sharing what the reason is behind this and what Michiganders have to say about it. Back to you, Taylor.
Yeah, I actually went to fill up my gas over the weekend. Was not fun to pay that, but I'm sure many of you, if you've had to fill up your gas recently and you paid at the pump, we're seeing those higher than usual gas prices than we've seen. So Deanna will have more coming up, News 10 at 5:30. And then Aaron Bowling coming up, News 10 at 6.
Thanks, Taylor. Today I'm speaking with health officials and community members about the CDC changing COVID guidelines. I'll have more on these guidelines and how local people are feeling about it on News 10 at 6. Back to you, Taylor.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Again, touching on the CDC guidelines, and we'll have Deanna and Aaron Bowling coming up during our 90 minutes of news, of course. One more time, I'll show you what else we have coming up, starting with First at 4 and then into our 90 minutes of news. So you can check that out again. And of course, again, talking about First at 4 today, it is Women's History Month throughout the whole month of March. So we're going to be talking about that. And of course, Studio 10 talking about that as well. So that is what we have coming up today on News 10. Other than that, I do want to show our You're Not Alone mental health series. You know, we are getting more warmer weather. I know a lot of people have been feeling that cabin fever. And so if you have been feeling a little bit more gloomy, you're not sure why, or maybe you do know why, there are resources out there for you. So in a couple of seconds, a QR code will pop up. If you bring out your cell phone and go to the camera, scan that QR code with your cell phone's camera, and you're going to click on the link that pops up. If you click on that link, you'll see a list of resources around mid-Michigan, such as in Clinton County, Shiawassee, Jackson, Ingham, Eaton, Ionia. I might be missing a few counties, but you will see all of those guided resources. And when I say guided resources, I'm not saying you have to choose these ones. No, use that as a guide to another resource that may benefit you and improve your emotional well-being. So if you're going through stress, anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, know that you're not alone. We're bringing in community members all year long here on News 10 to share their own experiences, break that stigma, get out of that denial, and have awareness on your own mental health. And talking to those mental health care professionals to know the signs and symptoms of your mentality, and then also getting the treatment and improving your emotional well-being. So getting that support group, knowing that there's resources out there for you. Feel free to scan that QR code. Again, whether it's for you or someone else, know that you're not alone. I do want to give a live look before we wrap this up here. And so a live look over US 127. You're seeing traffic moving just fine. In fact, there's actually there's one car. But yes, traffic very limited out on the roadways, as in you're not seeing too much going on out there. And of course, as soon as I say that, there go more of the cars. But traffic's moving just fine, and it's looking dry out on the roadways as well, but you're seeing some of that cloud cover, more of it, as opposed to earlier this morning. Justin Bradford did say we will get more peaks of the sun, and you're seeing some of that sunlight trying to poke through the clouds. So make sure you are tuning in to Studio 10 coming up at 3 o'clock today in just over half an hour. And then one more time, I will show you your 10-day forecast because it is looking pretty nice for the first week of March. Again, getting some of those above average temperatures, especially today with 71 degrees, that record high. So make sure you are appreciating today, the warmth, of course. And then like Justin Bradford was saying, we are going to get some of those rain showers and even possible thunderstorms in the area on your commute into work tomorrow morning. So download the First Alert Weather app, completely free off of Google Play and the Apple App Store. That way you can be notified on your specific location if a thunderstorm or any traffic alerts are in your area. Make sure you're staying up to date with that. But that is, again, what we have coming up on News 10 today. We hope you guys have a great Monday and a great start to your week. So have a great one.